Okay, what I wanted to discuss in this lesson was just to really give you an overview of the kind of two fundamental ways that you can plant this hand or not, as the case may be. So what we're talking about here is the kind of the anchor point for your right hand, and broadly there's two different ways you can do it. Let's say we were playing a chord progression, for argument's sake, let's just say it was G to E minor. Okay, so what I want you to look at here is my right hand. Okay, now there's two different ways I can do this. The way I was just playing it then was with this hand hovering, and then the other way I can play it is with this hand planted on the guitar. Now this is a very different sort of approach, because with one approach, obviously your hand is free floating, which means that you can do stuff like deadening. Yeah, we can't do that if our hand is planted. But it makes it a bit harder to target the notes because our hand is free floating, so we've got to kind of come in onto the guitar, do what we need to do, and then come away again. So you can see why there's pros and cons for each one. If you're just getting started, you might find it easier to plant your palm about here. Yeah, so somewhere around about there. You don't want it to touch the strings, because if you do that, obviously it will deaden them, it will muffle the tone. But what we're aiming for here is for sort of, you imagine like this band here, so it's at the bottom of your wrist, about here. You want to kind of snuggle that up behind the strings, and if you do that, what you'll find is that because you're connected to the guitar, you kind of planted on the end of the neck there, then you will find, or at least some people find it much easier to accurately target the strings that they're playing here. So I don't mind at all if you want to start that way, because it keeps you closer to the guitar neck. You might find it easier to get the strings that you want if your hand is there, because it literally acts as an anchor point. It reduces movement essentially. So that can give you kind of, you know, guardrails, so to speak. Stabilizers, if you prefer that, you know, analogy. But what you need to remember is that if you do that, that might make it easier for you to sort of, you know, get started up front. But it will reduce your ability to add percussive effects, because obviously your hand needs to be free floating to be able to do that. So I just want to put this on your radar as A, something that can make things easier for you when you're beginning, planting your palm there, reduces movement, keeps you close to the strings, maybe makes things easier in the short term. But I also want to make you aware that the end goal here is for you to be able to hover above the strings. Some people will naturally plant their palm, some people will naturally hover, and it might be that you hadn't even considered these two things, and that's the purpose of this video. So as we're going through these different exercises, experiment, try different ways of doing it. If something's too hard, try planting your palm. Yeah, obviously don't touch the strings there, because that will kill the notes, but if you just try planting your palm there, you may find that that gives you almost a layer of security that makes it easier for you to do so. If you feel comfortable with your hand hovering from the outset, then great, you know, that's perfect, that's what we want. Certainly I think your end goal should be to have your hand hovering, because it just opens up so many more possibilities in the future. A great exercise that you can take from this lesson would be to start playing some chord progressions that you already know, so songs that you've already got under your belt, but specifically just target the root notes of those chords and just use your thumb. So I don't know, let's say you've been playing Stand By Me. So if you know that progression, that's a song that you already know, then you might want to just start playing the bass line essentially. The C note would be here. The D note will be the string below. And the night has come, and the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we'll see. Yeah, lovely little progression. You can practice that just with your thumb. But you know, any song, any chord progression that you already know, a fantastic way to get you comfortable exploring this technique is just targeting those root notes with your thumb. Remember, they'll always be on the 5th or 6th string, but if it's a D chord, it will be on the 4th string.